All right. Welcome back. We are GAME2004. That's Game Engines 2 in the winter 2026 semester at Georgian, and it's week 1, part 3 of our broadcast and recording. And I've been walking around seeing some temples. That's what I've been seeing. People are doing a great job with their proportions and some of the sight lines and everything else they've created. They've been using their references, a lot of it from Google, which is pretty cool, our Google Maps and stuff. And so what's next? Now that you've blocked out your scene, the next thing that you need to do is start replacing blocks that we have. Let's go back here. Start replacing some of this stuff with adding things like materials and stuff like that as well. Now you can get a lot of the materials for this already. You know, again, if you were going to do something like this, you know, you can get it right from Fab. So again, one thing that Fab has is megascans, right? So if I was actually to look at something like megascans and I search for Fab, you can see that there's a bunch. So do me a favor before I move on. Can some of you take a look? If you search for megascans in Fab, do you get some of the stuff that says saved in library and free? Because if the answer is if it's cost, if it's everything for pay, that means I have to get a bunch of stuff for you. So the great thing is, you know, if I was to look at megascans and if I look at things like, you know, column, right, then you can see that we can cheat, right? There's some stuff that already exists. Some stuff that's you know, free. Someone else created that, like this one. You can see that there's a column. That's not quite right, because you can see this is more of a Roman column, not a Greek column. Right? This is kind of how it was before. However, it's not terrible, right? So it's a free column that we can definitely bring in, right? So that's something that's more accurate than what we had, or a little nicer than what I have, right? So let's go back. So there's lots of them. Anti-column, there's stuff for pay. Okay, we don't want to pay for anything. That's definitely not what we want. So let's go back to like you know, this Roman column as an example that I used as an example last time, which was saved in my you know, in here. But what we want to look for again is megascans. Megascans is the free stuff, right? So if I go to megascans by itself, you could further go down and look at things, not just materials and textures, but 3D. You can look at buildings, like buildings and architecture, and you can see that there's quite a few things that are here in megascans, you know, where you can kind of look through, and there's a lot of stuff that's in here that's free, right? So what we want to look for is like marble, you know, and marble actually exists in a couple places, right? If you wanted to look for the material itself, you can get it from the content browser. So one thing is, if I want to look at only materials, I want to look at my content, and I just want to look at only materials. How do I do it? Do you guys know? I want to look at my content, my entire content, and only see materials.
You click the green line.
The filter, and if you look at the filter, and if you click on material, what it'll do is it'll add in this little thing here that you can turn on and off from now on. Take a look at that, right? So this is a pretty good way of filtering. And again, a lot of times when we download stuff, we might already have a marble material that we could use, right? And if we don't, I know for sure that there's a marble material in the asset pack that comes with the contents. So if I go to content pack, I know I'm adding extra stuff to this thing, but it's okay. Here's the content pack. And if I look at material, you can see that there's going to be, there's rock, and I believe there's marble. Floor. And if not, if you don't like any of the materials, you can always download them from Fab. Here it is, rock, marble. Now this may not be the right thing that you're looking for, but you can try it out. So if you look for marble, here it is, and if I just drag and drop it onto one of these things, then we can see, we can kind of preview what this is going to look like before we switch it off. Doesn't quite look right. That's not kind of like the material I want. It's more like marble floors. That's what this is. So it's incorrect, yeah.
How did you have the materials again?
How did I So one thing that you can do, right, is if you don't like this, and I don't like this, you can try other kinds of materials because this is no good. So let's take a look at rock. Maybe there's some other rocky materials we can use that are without us having to go anywhere. So you can see there's rock and there's basalt. This is not quite right. There's rock, marble, right? But that's just the same as the other one, right? So that's kind of like this one. So what I want to do is go to the fab, right? And if I look for Megascans, then inside of Megascans, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do within in this total. And I can look for Megascans, and I can say something like marble material. And you might be able to find something that, I want to find something that's free. So you can also, change the price to free. So only show free products. Because I don't want to pay for anything. And you might find something that is suitable, right? Like, that you might find, right? So if I want to find like, material, marble, and you can also search through here on the left. On the left here, it's not just buildings, but they also have other kinds of things here you can search for as well. Like for here, materials is one thing that you can search for on the left. So if I go just Megascans, and if I just look at materials, here's all the materials for Megascans. And there might be something that's a little bit more suitable for me than that other thing. If I go Megascans rock. Granite, maybe. Or even sandstone might be okay. I think I have a sandstone in my content browser. Here it is. Let's try that instead. No. I mean, it's not terrible. It's just that the UV map for these things is not good. But it's a little better than what I had before. I think that might be best with what I had so far. So the next thing is adding material as an example. And I can certainly add it to all of these blocks, but remember I have that meshes folder, this mesh thing right here. And under the mesh folder, if I go to the cylinder, if I double click on the cylinder, there is a default material that I can switch to from this. I can search for something like, sandstone. And that's better, right? Take a look. So once I've done that, if I go back to the level, they're all done, right? As opposed to what I have. Again, is it completely accurate compared to what I did before? No, there's still a lot of work to be done still, but same thing with this. I can use probably the same material for the box, right? Because it's just a mesh. So again, we can just use like that sandstone, and you can experiment with different rock that you have out there. We'll save all that. And it's starting to look better. But again, this is our first iteration. Still, I consider this blocking out. This is not really accurate. I haven't done any detail work that I could have done in Blender or someplace else. What you could do now, if you're happy with something like this, let's say this is the beginning and I want to add more things, I can export this into Blender. So that's the next step, exporting it back into Blender and bringing it out. Or if you find a column, architectural column that is sufficient, that you think is good enough, like if you search for Greek column or something like that, so Megascans, Greek, sometimes you might find, not material, but buildings and architecture, you might find something that is more accurate that you want to drag in from this big library of stuff. And this semester, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a combination of creating our own inside of Engine and dragging stuff in from the asset store, right from from our fab. Okay? So your homework, here's your homework. You take this thing that you've worked on today and make it as accurate as you can by bringing it into Blender and bringing it back. You know, I don't want you spending a lot of hours on this because you're going to have other things to do this week, right? But spend a couple hours at home with the power that you have with your machine at home and make it as best as you can until you're satisfied, okay? Don't kill yourself. It's due next week. I want to take a look at it, and we're going to build on this example as we build more landscapes and stuff. So I need something for you to have. If you don't have something, I will provide something next week. It may not be as good as yours, but I'm going to try my best to kind of put up something that is similar to what we've been doing today, okay? So this is what your homework is for next week. We need something, an asset, because if we don't have any assets next week, you can't, I mean, you know, we're going to add more things to this. We're going to talk about landscapes, but the first thing is blocking out your scene. Other things that we consider blocking out is, instead of doing a landscape, and if you want to put this on a hill, use blocks to create the hill. Like actually blocks, like block it out like a hill. What does it look like? How tall is it? Take a look at the maps from Google Maps and see what that hill looks like that Sunyo is on top of, right? The big, you know, kind of hillock that it is, right? It's more like almost like a little mini mountain, like I said. And see if you can modify that as well. All right. And of course, running your, one thing we haven't talked about, which we will talk about more, is when you run your game, you know, does your character go right through the walls or not, right? Or are they blocked, right? So take a look at how it looks. It does, you know, even now with this simple thing that we've done with the columns, it does give you this different feel, you know, for these things. Even the mannequins that are there, almost like guardians, you know. So, you know, again, we start small like this, and the way I want to talk about it like this with you is the following. We work big. We start big, and then we go small. And we go smaller and smaller and smaller until we get as much detail as possible, right? From big to small. We don't start with minute details first. That's a waste of your time. Start with the big first. Block everything out, and then we go from there. That's it for me today, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow between 3 and 6, where we will start programming multiplayer, all right? 3 to 6 tomorrow, guys. Thank you so much.